I now want to welcome our surprise guest, my dad. I thought you might all be missing Dinesh while he was away this week, so I asked him to pop on today's podcast and drop some truth bombs on us. Hello.
Hey, I'm checking in from the Rio Grande Valley, so hello from the south of Texas.
Well, thanks for joining us. How has your week been so far? I know you've been traveling, you've done a lot of speeches, and now you're doing some things in South Texas. So what have you been up to?
Well, normally when I take a week off, it might seem like Debbie and I are just relaxing and doing nothing, but not this week. So over the weekend, I went to the Appalachian Mountains, and I gave a talk in Kentucky. It's called Pikeville, Kentucky. Not an easy place to get to. I had to fly to Cincinnati, and then drive 3 hours. Then I went from there, and Debbie met me. We were in Grand Rapids. Well, you were in Michigan recently. So I spoke at Grand Rapids Right to Life, their annual fundraising gala. Went, 1,300 people. It was fantastic. Just wonderful audience, lovely people. And then we were home for a day, and now we are visiting Debbie's mom, Mitzi, who says hello. And also her sister Karen. So we are all hanging out and taking it easy. And a little bit later, we're going to meet with the campaign staff of Myra Flores, who's of course running in this district, a very important race because it kind of symbolizes the shift of Hispanics toward the GOP.
Very cool. Have you been missing doing the podcast this week? Because you have not taken a week off yet like this. I mean, not a week off because you're busy, but how is your schedule, now that you haven't been doing the podcast this week?
Well, I'm actually thrilled with you in the driver's seat because this is, I've never really had a guest host. So this is the first time, and you've taken the whole week. It's not just a day. And you're totally crushing it. So now I know that, if I ever take a break, I've got somebody who can fill my shoes and do it really well.
You're like, I might do this sometime again. We'll see. Well, I know you've probably missed your educational segments that you do on your podcast. So I thought today we could talk a little bit about Christian apologetics. I saw this interesting article titled, "New Observations Reveal How Giant Structures in Space Connect the Universe and Form Galaxies." What do you make of this?
Well, I think what's going on is that we're beginning to see developments in 21st century science. And what they're showing is that the universe operates according to a certain kind of a code, a certain type of a blueprint. Now, scientists have always kind of known this, but the atheists have been, of course, very emboldened by Darwin because Darwin appears to undermine the argument from design. Darwin seems to show that you don't need a pre-existing design to show how living creatures can change and evolve. That's kind of the meaning of evolution, that there can be, through natural selection, evolution in response to natural changes in the environment. But of course, interestingly, while the argument from design has been somewhat undermined in biology, it has been greatly strengthened in the most important of all the scientific disciplines, one that actually subsumes or contains all of biology, and that's physics. And so I think the meaning of this article is that scientists see all these things that go on both at the very small level, the microscopic and the subatomic level, and then these huge things that are happening out in the universe. Our universe is just unimaginably big. And it turns out that both the really big things and the really small things don't occur kind of randomly. They occur by a sort of code or blueprint or design. And of course, you can't have intelligent design without an intelligent designer.
Right. And I think when people often question, how could there be this world? It must have been caused by some other universe. It doesn't have to be an intelligent designer. Maybe the intelligent designer wasn't God. It was some kind of alternate universe. How would you debunk that argument?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, that only pushes the problem one step back, right? Because, so for example, let's assume that our universe, let's call it universe A, is caused by universe B, which is caused by universe C. Well, where did this alphabet soup of universes come from? In other words, what is the cause of that? So merely positing that this particular universe is caused by another universe hardly solves the problem of where the universe has come from.
Right. It's almost like they're more comfortable with the idea of unknown universes and universes going far back. Who knows to where that would stop? But they just don't like the idea of God. Do you think that a lot of the time that's really what it's about? They don't want to acknowledge that there could be a designer?
Yes, I think that atheism is driven. It begins with the premise that there is no God, and then it comes to the idea of how do we find a way to account for all the design in the universe, or the apparent design, without a designer. And so if it's impossible to account for life, let's remember evolution can describe how life transitions from organism A to organism B, but evolution doesn't explain where life came from. So if you can't explain life, then they go, well, maybe life was sort of seeded here from some other planet. That theory is called panspermia. And again, there's absolutely no evidence for this, but for atheists it provides some psychological comfort because it's a way of being able to try to explain the universe without having to introduce the idea of God.
Right. So there must be a designer. And I want to ask you, explain to us a little bit that really interesting example you use just to show how complex the world is and how it needed to be made, exactly this way about the dials. And if you move them a little bit, everything is ruined. Can you tell your audience a little bit about that example?
Well, yeah, you can think of the universe as being a very complex machine, a machinery that operates according to, let's say, 100 different dials. And the point is that all those dials, all 100 of them, have to be set at a precise number for the universe to be the way it is, and for life to emerge, for complex life, for our kind of life, the life that can turn around and comprehend the universe. So the probability of that occurring, not just in one dial, but in all these dials at the same time, is essentially it's infinitesimal. And so the point here is that when you look at all the arguments and the complexity, the existence of all these dials points to the fact that somebody is operating the dials.
Right. And even if you move them slightly, we wouldn't have life. We wouldn't be able to exist in these kinds of conditions, even if they were slightly changed, because we have to have the universe a certain way with certain temperatures and so on in order to survive.
Exactly.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your insight. I'll let you get back to things, but just wanted to let you come say hi to your audience since you'll be back with them soon.
Sounds good. Look forward to seeing everybody on Monday.
Thanks.